Hi, it's What If Wednesday time with Susan Bennett Fisher and Martin Fisher, the co-founders of Body of Nine.
So what if almost everything that you assume about another person is wrong?
Today, we're going to be spending some time talking about three of the most prevalent myths about how we interact with other people and how we attribute things,
Behavior, well, meaning to behavior.
Yeah, and responses. Basically, it is very, very likely that when you assign reason, judgment,
Interpretation.
to other people's actions, you're going to be misunderstanding what's really going on. And there's many, many things with many, many trainings that you might have heard. You might have heard from a sales presentation that everybody wants something different. That's probably true. You may have heard that eye contact is a sign of respect. Not so much. As it turns out, how we use our eyes differs between each of the 9 natural numbers. So what we're going to do today is spend some time examining 3 of the most prevalent myths to give you an idea that our world is a little bit more different than we've been led to believe.
And this is a really important topic because fundamentally, humanity, our understanding of each other is missing this incredibly important context. There are 9 physiologically different kinds of people. How you take in information, how you process information, what you care about, what you're driven by is actually based in your body.
So as it turns out,
it's related to both how your body shows up, how you take information, and also to a certain extent your spiritual nature.
yeah. And yes, there is nurture that comes on top of our nature. Our parents and our people around us nurture us, but they often nurture us to be more like them rather than more like ourselves.
Well, often, almost all the time, to be accurate.
Yes.
So we get nurtured away from this core function that we have. So the 9 come together to create a cohesive, functioning group. And when we get moved away from our giving the gift that comes with our physiology, we no longer are as powerful and impactful when we're in community and family and groups and work groups.
And it's worse than that. As we meet other people, as we try and achieve what it is that we need to achieve, if we're not aware that other people aren't like us, then you get conflict. You get nasty, deep, pervasive, fundamentally painful and damaging conflict. And we firmly believe, both of us, that a lot of the misunderstandings that happen in the world today, a lot of the strife, a lot of the fear, a lot of the pain comes from this fundamental understanding about humanity.
Yeah, and missing it is a real problem.
It's a real problem.
You know, we talk a lot. We're working now with coaches a lot, and we hear this. I just want to focus on my thing. I'm like, yes, focus on your thing, but if you don't have the context for your thing,
right,
it's going to lose its impact on the world around you.
Yes, you may have seen us do these presentations now. We're into, I think, number 50 or some large number. And we've spent a lot of time explaining why things are different, but I don't think we've ever stood up and say, look, this is an important thing to know.
It's critical.
It not only makes your life easier, it makes the people around you's life easier, and it makes everybody better. And we think that's really something worth striving for.
Because you get validated and acknowledged as who you are. You're able to see your gift in context of the whole and to receive the other pieces without making them wrong or bad. And then you can bring it all together so it makes sense. So community makes sense, and family makes sense, and workplace makes sense.
Shared goals, shared outcomes, but approaching it from a very different viewpoint.
Right. Which is, there's not one person that has, the role of being the leader. It's a broken thing in our culture that you can do something by yourself. You cannot do anything without the inputs from all 9 with a reasonable level of effectiveness.
Yeah. And you may have an idea, but the more people you work with, the more people you share that idea with, the more ideas you get back that add the weight and the strength and the power to your ideas.
Right.
The better everything works.
And because if you're missing any one of the 9, what happens is it's a hole. That function is not filled.
And that's a hole without a W. That is just a hole.
Yes. And nobody else who doesn't have that ability within their body to create that function in the whole has, nobody else has that ability. They can't do it. So if I am the only person there who's so I'm a 6. If I'm not there, there's no energy to move things forward. So each of the natural numbers brings a very specific function. But we were going to talk about myths today.
Yes.
So, and we'll talk about the functions in terms of the myth as well.
Yeah. What's the first myth, honey?
Well, the first myth is that our bodies are basically the same. We basically take in information the same way, and we do things more or less the same way.
Yep.
Now, on one hand, we know that that is kind of a built-in belief. And then on the other hand, we know we're different. We have different capabilities and talents and things like that. But there's still this kind of like belief that we have the same organs and the same muscles and the same bones and the same brain. And we should be able to understand and our perception should be similar to the people around us.
And even if that makes sense, you'll have seen it also from the other side. If you can go to somebody and you think, wow, they're so amazing, but if they were only just a little bit this, they'd be perfect.
We do that to our kids. We look at our kids' behavior and we say, oh my God, one of our colleagues has a natural number 7 child. And this kid is so curious and she's always out checking things out. And if her mother won't let her check something out, she gets really upset. And her mother knows that she needs to check things out. So she gives her a lot more rope than she might if she didn't understand that this was critical to the way she was learning and critical to her sense of self. Without that curiosity and that exploration for this child in particular, which might even mean doing things in ways that other people don't approve if you follow the rules of society. So what she's able to do is actually nurture that growth and vulnerability and curiosity in her child without shutting it down.
So my background is I came from England. I was born in 1959. My parents are of the Second World War generation, and their parents before them, they start edging into the Victorian era. And the Victorians worked really hard to make sure that everybody was the same. They made sure that everyone lived and at least externally kept to the same set of rules. But if you look underneath the Victorian ethic, everyone was completely wild and full of abandon, because if you tighten people down, they lose that ability to express publicly, and all the expression becomes private, and you lose all that wonderful power and creativity. And as a civilization, I think we've spent a lot of time trying to help everybody be treated as though they're the same. People are not the same.
Nope. At a level of the nature, which is the fundamental difference in the way people look at the differences between us. So most of the focus is on gender, race, culture, language, and nurture. Most of the focus on how we're different is on those aspects of our experience. So if you normalize those things, we should be basically the same. But it's still not true. Even if we share culture, race, gender, language, and nurture, like in a family, like your brothers and sisters, you're still nothing like each other because your bodies are different. They're equipped in different ways.
Yeah. We've worked with people from all around the globe, all genders, all races, from pretty much, maybe except Antarctica, every part.
Of course, we know we might have, but
every part of the physical globe. And people of the same natural number have way more in common than the place they come from.
So from the first myth, if you just take away, well, maybe that person's body is not like mine. And then get curious about how is their body different? You know, do they have a bigger head? Do they have a longer face? Start to look at bodies around you and you'll start to see, oh, wow, that person really, really looked like this person. And then look at their body shape and the way they approach life and the energy signature associated with them. And you'll start to see that there are 9 physiologically different kinds of people.
And if you move down the path of don't disbelieve that we encourage you to follow, you'll start to see the truth of what we're talking about. And we've worked directly with 8,000 plus people. We've looked at tens of thousands of bodies. And it's very, very clear. As soon as you give yourself the permission to start seeing the similarities. And honestly, the human body is amazingly good at picking out patterns. Our bodies actually know how to communicate.
They're better than computers, as it turns out.
Way better than computers, it turns out. And so, which takes us to our second myth. The way that you use your eyes
And your body.
and your body is unique to your natural number. Now, the other fun part of this is that we're pretty convinced that our natural numbers talk to each other even without having brought the consciousness of natural numbers into our minds. Depending on who you listen to, what numbers you read, anywhere between 5% to 70% of communication is body-based, not verbal.
But it doesn't mean body language means the same thing across natural numbers.
And across, so taking this further, across various cultures, body language means something different. Different signals mean different things.
So is body language learned in that context? It's some level.
So I think body language is layered on top of our natural number language.
Yes, that's perfect.
I think our natural number body language, specifically our natural number body language, our bodies communicate with each other at the natural number level. Our bodies are aware completely, even if you never heard of the body of 9 before, your body knows there are 9 natural numbers. There are 9 different kinds of people, and your body expects people of a certain natural number to respond in a certain way. That is how our bodies communicate. Completely unconsciously, we've got very little research to back this up, but we're pretty damn convinced that our bodies communicate in our natural number way. And on top of that, we layer the nurture of the culture.
So if you're in a culture where eye contact is honored as a way of connecting, and like in the Western culture,
And a lack of eye contact is considered disrespectful.
by some, and other people think that eye contact is actually distracting, and they don't understand why everybody wants to make eye contact. And there's other people, they're not even aware that they make eye contact all the time, and others that don't make eye contact. I've had to learn to make eye contact.
And the cultures that are out there are some cultures where eye contact is disrespectful. But certainly here in the Western world, you'll hear a lot that your parents probably told you, at least your father would have told you, well, you've got to look somebody in the eye to see who they are. And the answer is, maybe.
Well, but if you look somebody, and you can learn this if it's not natural, but the point is it's not disrespectful, it's not always natural, and what happens when you look with your eyes, there's a very particular activation that happens in the eyes of 4 of 9.
And
Actually, well, all 9.
All 9, in fact,
but
yes.
4 of them are about how do I build connection with my eyes.
4 the natural numbers give you the gift of themselves through their eyes. The rest of us, looking into someone's eyes, they are the windows to the soul. There is no doubt that eye contact is important, but it is not necessarily a mark of respect.
Right, and the quality of the eye gets misunderstood. There are 9 specific eye qualities when a person is activated in their body. What happens to their eyes is extraordinarily distinct and recognizable, but it means something different. And what we do all the time is we make up what that means. So if my eyes look blank, like a natural number eye, they have a natural number 9, they have very neutral eyes. 2s have very neutral eyes when they're not engaged. But as soon as they engage, the eyes light up and there's this enlivenment that happens in the connection.
And natural number 5s, they may be looking at you, but where we're processing, my natural number is 5, eyes go blank, nobody home. But there's still processing available. It's an interesting one. The fight or flight comes in very easily. If something's happening and my brain is turned off, my eyes will warn me. It's kind of interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So, but also taking this further, it's not just the eyes, it's the facial expression, it's the body expression.
Right. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4, because they are about human engagement at some level, each one of them, their bodies are generally more engaging. They do make more eye contact. They do stand closer. They have a much more engaging way of being with people than 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 do. But because that's become the model in our Western society, all of the models in the 1980s and 90s were 2s and 3s. And it was, as a result, that began to be the model that we were all trying to emulate.
And sometimes it got to 7, right? 7 was the...
7 got very good. Ashton Kutcher brought in the 7 look.
And so it's fascinating if you go back and you look at certain waves of what is becoming
What's popular.
popular in the time, all the way back sort of hundreds of years. Some of the paintings The Rubenesque paintings, for example, are very much not 2s and 3s.
No, they're 6s and 8s. Yes.
And the funny thing is, you can see this. Like Picasso, natural number 2, you can see how much his eyes focus. Our bodies are so much more aware of what's going on than our minds. And this is what we are trying to emphasize again and again here, is that what we're taught is not necessarily accurate.
Right. So our bodies are different, and we use our senses differently depending on what natural number is active. That includes, I can activate my 6ness and my eyes get this kind of vibrating quality, or I can activate my 1 and they become soft and receptive. So the eyes change with the activation of the natural number.
And the pace changes too.
And the pace changes, and the volume and the intensity.
The use of words changes too, as it turns out.
Absolutely. It's just phenomenal.
Our bodies are amazing.
So if you have no consciousness about how to move between the natural numbers, you're stuck with your 1 view, and it's been nurtured out of you. So imagine where you're starting from. You're starting from not knowing anything about yourself or the people around you, unless you've been lucky enough to discover things along the way. But most of that is nurture.
And you've been taught in your mind the exact opposite of what your body knows.
Yes.
Which is, again, a major source of disconnect that we have in the world. And
also, it's not okay to be you.
No.
It's really just not okay, you know.
And it gets to be really hard to, once you're used to accepting what is not true, because you know the truth of you at some level, but you've been taught that that's not all right, then anything anybody else tells you is much more likely to get past the filter of that's not right.
Which leads us to our third, which is you should care about what I care about. If you could just be a little bit better person, you know, then if you could be a little bit more like me, you know, and why aren't you? Why do you do that over and over and over again, Martin?
Why don't you care what I care about?
Why? Yeah. Why can't you just be a little bit better? I mean, oh my God, we get so frustrated with each other. So frustrating. Why did that person hear me? Why didn't they understand me? I get misinterpreted all the time.
Why didn't they plan ahead? Why aren't they responding to what's obviously a live energy? Why aren't they moving?
Yeah. Why is the world so friggin' stuck? And why is it so hard to communicate?
Yeah, why don't people like me the way that I like them? Why don't people treat me?
And why? Yeah, and why don't people like me the way I like myself?
Yeah, all these assumptions, some subconscious, some nurtured, some real, that people have the same needs that you do. People respond the same way. Even with us who do this literally
all the time. Yeah,
we still get to the place of, oh yeah, that's why. That's right.
I have
She's
to
doing
remember.
her thing and I'm doing my thing, and we both remember. And our kids too.
Yes.
There's everything that happens.
And we're always learning because we have these assumptions. You know, we've always talked about, for example, natural number 2 as being about engagement. Well, I was lying in my room and my daughter arrived, and I realized that the moment she, as a natural number 2, walks into the room, she enlivens the entire experience of life.
So new learning, new words.
Yes, and that happens all the time because we don't know the words for the impact, because the impact has never been understood well enough. And that's really what we're doing here with you coaches out there and with our students and with everybody that we work with, is helping you to understand the differences so that we can receive those gifts. It's so important. We stick with this because we know that the impact is incredible. We're not perfect human beings. We haven't mastered the 9. We haven't mastered being human beings. But boy, we understand things a lot better. Yeah.
And we will never master. There is no mastery here. This is
there's a first level of mastery. There's levels of mastery.
Yes, we'll get better.
But we don't know what the bigger ones are yet.
Let me be more direct. None of us are perfect.
Yeah, that's true.
None of us are perfect. None of us are ever going to be perfect.
Nor are we whole, because we're only 1/9 right now.
Well,
no, we are. We're only 1/9.
We are only 1/9, but we are whole as individuals.
Well, yes, of course we're whole. And that's a paradox, actually, because you've got everything you need. You've got all 9 centers to your body. And you have the superpower that comes with the one that's born active, your natural number. But in order to actually be in the world in a way that makes sense, you have to understand the other 8. And if you don't understand the other 8, you're just going to be wondering what the hell is going on around you all the time, or getting angry all the time, or being frustrated, or being, like, forget it, I'm going to do it myself.
So some takeaways. We're all different. Knowing about Body of 9 is a window into the availability of a lot more for all of humanity
It makes everything make more sense.
It makes everything make more sense.
I mean, how can you be with the world today with all of the religions and all of the perspectives and all the races and all the cultures and not be completely confused? But if you boil it down into, if you put it into the category of their natural number, things start to make a lot more sense. So you have the impact you were designed to have, and you receive the gifts that you need to be in your full function.
And that's not to say that the world's religions are all wrong.
No, they're all right.
They're all right. And
Yes.
they come from very different sources. We are
Right.
pretty comfortable that many of the religions come from people of a different natural number leading down that path.
Right.
And that is awesome.
But the wisdom alone,
Is not sufficient.
any one of the 9 wisdom pieces alone is exactly that, 1/9. And they work together. And we'll do a post on that soon about how the 9 work together. We've been playing with
We have some new ideas that we're
some
pretty
new
excited
structure. And so we hope you'll tune in next week for our What If Wednesday and sit with us this week. Start to notice, when do you assume about somebody else's behavior what it means?
including ours.
Yes.
So one of the shifts that comes with the new year is a slight focus change. And our focus change is very much still getting Body of 9 out. It's very much still supporting our amazing team and the team of coaches that are working with us now, but also to help everyone understand that this is actually a critical piece of information.
Yeah.
And it is not just important for you. It's important for us all.